The first message from the Galactic Empire arrived during open mic night at a bar in Bucharest called Capacitor. The projector was a second-hand salvage that added a green tint to every face, and the comedian on stage Mira Cade, a data linguist, by day and a passable jokesmith by night, was in the middle of a bit about autocorrect, turning cosmic microwave background into cosmic microwave bacon. The projector seized, coughed static, then bloomed into a vast, dark eye made of interlocking hexagons. A voice came through, chorded with harmonics, a chorus squeezed into a single mouth. Attention, emergent culture of South3. You are contacted by the imperial mandate of Concord. You will cease internal conflict, collapse into beneficial silence, and accept administrative integration. The protocol begins at once. The bar froze. Someone dropped a glass. The AI behind the register refused to sell more drinks until it could verify whether administrative integration came with tax implications. Mira, who had been calculating whether her last joke was salvageable with a better tag, faced the giant non-I. The translation subscripted itself along the bottom of the image in perfect Romanian, then perfect English, then because someone in the bar shouted Hungarian. Please, perfect Hungarian. The thing about collective voices is they act like teachers who already expect you to fail. The bar crowd knew pomp when they heard it, and humans, when confronted with pomp and threat in the same breath, do a very specific mammalian thing. They laughed. Not everyone, not even most, but the laugh started in the throat of a grad student who had just had her bicycle stolen, jumped to the bartender with a mohawk that curved like a question mark, and then to a table of old men who remembered what it was like when other empires thought they could improve things. The laugh spread, uncontainable, messy, fizzy like an uncapped soda, on the stream, somewhere far beyond Jupiter and good taste. The imperial emissary tilted. The hexagons skittered. Another bar in Nairobi laughed. A train car in Osaka laughed. A kitchen in Lima laughed. And a million feeds that had been watching the same live translation let loose there. Sounds of breath and surprise, clarification. Mira said into the mic, the habit of stagecraft overtaking terror. Is this a bit? The projector image fractured, then resolved around a sudden tremor. The chorus voice wrong-footed. Firmament cracked by mirth. It tried again. This is an official, and then the emissary collapsed. The hexagons all tumbled inward like bubbles popping in reverse. The chorus cut to a scream that wasn't a scream, more a catastrophic unchord, and the projected image flashed to black. The bar's new silence was a different silence from the one the Empire had requested. Someone exhaled loudly. Capacitors. Owner swore at the projector. Phones lit up. The global feed aggregated instant replay edits and MOS. The word Concord fought Concord, and Imperial Mandate became Imperial Mondude. Within 3 minutes, there was a meme of the hexagon I photoshopped onto a giant onion. Captioned, "You made US cry." Within 5, someone had overlaid the envoys trembling with a laugh track from a 70s sitcom. The Imperial emissary had died. No one understood that at first. It would take 2 hours for the first linguists to realize the collective had been a person of sorts. 3 for the astrophysicists to triangulate the broadcast origin near one of Saturn's shepherd moons. 6 for someone in Brasilia to notice that 47 similar diplomatic nodes round the empire went dark within seconds of our reaction. By dawn in Bucharest, the ground was trembling with a different frequency, the slow drum of ships falling into soul like rain. Mira Cade stared at the blank projector and wondered if a joke could be a murder weapon. When you had no idea laughter could kill. By the time government grabbed the feeds and spun the narrative into something palatable. We are in contact. Stay calm. Do not livestream threats. The first of the ships had settled into orbit, with a geometry too precise for human comfort. They decorated the sky like needlepoints, each one linked to the next by an interference lattice that made amateur radio operators weep. Mira slept for 40 minutes and woke up to a swarm of messages. Half of them were from journalists with thirst for a punchline and a body count. The other half had subject lines like urgent, your presence required, and you have skills we need. Please respond. She ignored both sets until her building shook and a government drone hovered outside her window like an anxious hummingbird. On the drone's belly, Cade, Mira, transport authorization. On its speaker, please pack. Minimal essentials. Time is folding. Defense got her. Though defense was a misnomer. The building on the outskirts of the city was a repurposed startup campus, with standing desks and bad coffee. The room they led her to was all glass, whiteboards, cables. A retired colonel in a sweater vest introduced himself as John Park and slid a stack of documents across the table. Dr. Cade, he said, you're a computational linguist. You also routinely test material in high-variance environments. You do jokes and hope they land. I mean, you keep trying to make humans make a certain sound. We need to discuss why the sound you made last night killed a diplomat. She almost protested that she hadn't made anyone do anything. But the colonel's face had the same look as a paramedic trying to keep a patient calm. She read. She sipped coffee that had the heartbreak of the last cup in a pot. She read more. The imperial mandate, it turned out, did not have individuals like ours. It had people, thousands of species and cultures, but its governing stratum was a flock, choirs, that braided cognition into single, policy-speaking throats. Ritualized harmony wasn't just metaphor, it was structural. The Concorde had found that shared phase being literally in tune made them resilient to internal dissent. Dissent did not disappear. It was diffused across so many bodies it couldn't cohere. The problem, as Mira understood with a cold, creeping clarity, was laughter. Humans laugh across breaths. We throw a glitch into rhythm and ride it like a wave. It's voluntary and involuntary, social and private, and it breaks and reforms the beat. Our laughter said, we will not align on your command. That sound, broadcast on imperial consensus channels across light years, hit the Concorde's envoy nodes like static injected into a heart pacer. In Brasilia and Chennai, similar envoy nodes had come online, and similar crowds had made similar oxygen music. The nodes failed. The Concorde registered the fallen as not merely failed devices, but deceased persons. Their harmonically braided selves collapsed. 47 simultaneous deaths. First contact and first casualties. It was an accident, Mira said, voice thin. We didn't know, neither did they. Jun paced, hands folded behind his back. But intention doesn't matter when the fleet sees 47 dead officials. They think we declared a memetic war. Memetic warfare implies imitation, contagion. Humor is contagious. You of all people know that. Mira rubbed her face. I make people breathe weird in rooms with bad lighting. That's not a weapon. Jun slid another dossier. Images of the ships round Earth. Their latest glimmer. It is now. A significant fraction of our population is currently trying very hard to be unfunny. On the screens, feeds from around the world. Schools teaching breath control to students to keep from giggling. Offices disabling jokes in company chatbots. Musicians learning to play without syncopation. The internet awash with calls to hold your laughter and be kind, no punchlines. And of course, the flip side, teenagers posting forbidden jokes, bootlegged videos of people snorting, wheezing, trying to hold it in and failing, laughing so hard they cried. Why am I here? Mira asked finally. I can't make the whole species stop, and I won't. We're not asking you to. Jun said, we want you to help us talk. He tapped a video window. An alien face unfolded, then refolded into something like a blossom of bone and glass. Symbols underneath labeled the image, Auditor Lisale. Mandate of Concorde. The voice that came was softer than the envoy had been. Still chorus, but local. This channel is safe for resonance, Lisale said. I am a diplomatic auditor. Sanctioned to continue contact after the harm. We request a cease breath. A moratorium on disruptive sound until funerary consents conclude. Mira swallowed. I'm Mira. She said to the screen. I didn't mean to hurt your envoy. Lisale angled their blossom face. A movement that meant curiosity or grief. Your plurals made a storm. We could not hold together inside it. We are not built for storms. It wasn't mockery. What was it, then? Mira groped for words. A way to say we don't believe you. A way to reclaim oxygen when someone's trying to take it from the room. A way to live with. Terror. Your terror killed my colleagues. Your ultimatum sparked our terror. Silence. Not the Concord-mandated kind, a human silence full of aches. Jun stepped in. Auditor, we wish to establish safe channels. Is there a pattern, a rhythm, that would keep your choirs intact? Lisale considered. We can tolerate any sound that stays within a single phase. Monotones are safe, even melody, if it maintains a predictable meter. Mira's heart sank. You're asking us not to syncopate, not to surprise. We are asking you not to kill us with your joy. It wasn't joy in the way the Concord understood it. But Mira couldn't say that without making everything worse. She nodded because she had to. We'll try. They built quiet rooms. They built protocols for breath, for speech. They built recommendations for streamers, no laugh tracks, warn for jokes. It was like living under a dome where suddenly the weather mattered again. That first night, Mira went back to Capacitor and sat on the stage with the microphone off and the projector unplugged. The regulars sat in chairs like refugees, hands over their mouths. Someone coughed. Someone else snorted and excused themselves to cry in the bathroom. They were grieving for something they hadn't known was dangerous, the shared chaos of playing. With breath, and still, above them, the ships arranged themselves into stricter and stricter lattices. Not with weapons, though railguns slept behind those needlepoint hulls, but with constraints that felt like sand poured into the gears of daily life. Satellite bands hummed with foreign harmonics that made some human encryption schemes fail, and others glitch. Freight routes were reorganized for stability. Climate control systems in certain grid zones were forced into synchronous cycles that made entire continents run their air conditioners at the same moment, surging power and causing controlled brownouts. Each move came with perfect politeness from Auditor Lisale's office. We have altered this to reduce memetic threat. We have quieted that to ensure safety. Jun briefed Mira every morning. He was very good at being calm in rooms full of catastrophe. They're not here to glass us, he would say. They're here to domesticate us. Mira worked with a team of linguists, neurophysiologists, comedians, God help her, monks, and a few tacticians with the specific look of people who think in derivatives of despair. They crafted a safe grammar, ways to speak so that humans didn't accidentally drop syncopations into imperial ears. Government agencies rolled it out like a new punctuation mark. People complied. Mostly, anxiety is a strong teacher, but humor hates rules, it leaks. Teenagers and trolls weaponized laughter the way they always weaponize everything, thoughtlessly, inventively, sometimes cruelly, sometimes as resistance. They called themselves the loose cannons and ran pirate podcasts that spiked broadcasts with hiccup laughs, giggle loops, subwoofer chuckles. One showed a video of an Imperial Patrol choir. Another braided self-shattering mid-report, their blossom faces collapsing from choir to chaos. The clip got 30 million views before the filters caught it, and the plugin devs pushed an update that auto-muted anything above a certain cackle threshold. Mira watched that clip exactly once and almost vomited. It was to clean a death. A switch became the end of worlds across the ocean. A different disaster. A stadium crowded a football match tried to cheer in safe monotones, but failed when a referee tripped so perfectly that the universe demanded comedy. The wave of laughter rippled into orbit, caught a listening drone, bounced along the lattice, and reached a small Concorde craft tethered to the network. That craft's choir died mid-broadcast. The mandate's reply turned the city's grid to ice for 23 minutes. It was winter in Sao Paulo in August, and paramedics slipped on frost. Mira stopped taking calls from journalists. She stopped going to Capacitor. She spent afternoons on a floor cushion across from Lisale, the two of them negotiating what constituted a joke. A joke, Mira said, is a misdirection with empathy. The empathy is crucial. Otherwise, it's cruelty. Lisale said, a joke is a disruption. Disruptions harm choir fidelity. Humans aren't choirs. All cultures are choirs. Your choirs are just rowdy. They tried experiments. They built a sound generator that mapped human chuckles onto a single monotone, turning every laugh into something like a hum. It sounded wrong, like grief masked by a ritual, but it let humans breathe and not accidentally kill the neighbor orbiting overhead. They devised a handshake before any call between Concorde and human channels. Each side would do a 3-breath exercise. Inhale for 3, exhale for Forentil. Their rhythms aligned enough for safety. Mira called it blowing out the candles. Lisael called it phase converging. Either way, it helped. Still, the pressure built. The mandate wanted total compliance, and a species engineered by evolution to giggle during funerals was not capable of it. There were accidents. There were intentional acts, too, from factions who saw a weapon where Mira saw a wound. Then came the ultimatum. The Hegemon's court, a choir so vast it needed a ring station to house it, issued a statement. Earth would submit to a permanent silence protocol enforced by orbital nodes that would filter all human sound, public and private, for disruptive rhythm, or Earth would experience a surgical culling of its most volatile clusters to reduce risk. Clusters, Jun said, voice carefully bland, means cities. Can we fight them? Mira asked. Jun did not smile. Conventional. No, we can vandalize the lattice at the edges. Mess with their timing. We have kids building pulse coders in basements. But a full military engagement is a feast we can't afford. Mira stared at the map. We could kill them, you know. The loose cannons prove it. One good global laugh at the right frequency, and their courts collapse. And we'd become the thing we can't live with. She wanted to say, they started it. She wanted to say, we are dying under the weight of your politeness. Instead, she looked at Lisael on the screen, who had not asked for this either, whose choir had lost colleagues so early that grief was now the water they breathed. There's another path, Mira said. We teach them to laugh back. Lisael's petals shivered. We cannot. Our bodies, not like us. A translation. A mapped reflex. We build a bridge between our rhythm and yours. A joke you can survive. It is a strange sentiment to call a joke survivable. It is a strange universe. The plan that followed should not have worked. It required the same improbable layering that made a joke land. Timing, empathy, breath held, and then released. They crafted a set, stories with misdirections that resolved not as cackles, but as chords beats that brought human laughter too. The lip, and then dissolved it into a tone, a laugh into hum, a punch line that didn't punch so much as fold. Mira wrote. Monks polished the breathwork beats. Musicians embedded guardrails so the rhythm could not spiral into syncopation. Neuroscientists scanned volunteers' rib cages while they watched to ensure the diaphragm curve didn't slip into the danger zone. Lisael and their smaller choir tested prototypes, canted their pedals in something like approval when a story made them feel the thing. Without killing the pattern, they called it the bridge set. They planned to broadcast it to the Hegemons. Court, it will fail, Jun said. They will see it as a trick. It's a trick either way, Mira said. But ours is a trick with grace. What if it kills them? Mira looked at her hands. Then we become the empire killers some of us already think we are. And then we have to live with that. But if we do nothing, they cull cities. Jun nodded once. Make it perfect, then make it safer than perfect. They took the stage in the only place that felt right. Capacitor. The projector had been replaced. The chairs were fuller than they'd ever been. But everyone sat with the posture of people who had been to too many funerals recently. Outside, the lattice of ships glinted. Inside, the lights were warm. Is everyone briefed? Mira asked. One last time. The audience nodded. The safety protocol had become part of life. They had filters, hum aids, little metronome bracelets that would buzz if their breath slipped into the dangerous laugh cadence. They were ready to try being human in a way that would not end a civilization. On the screen, Lisael, joined by 12 other auditors, their choirs arranged in careful petals. In another window, the Hegemon's court. A wheel of blossoms, rituals stacked atop rituals, like an opera designed by engineers. We register your attempt, the court intoned. Begin. Mira began not with a joke, but with a story. Because laughter grows better from story. It was small and human and specific. She talked about the first time she bombed on stage. A night no one laughed, and she realized that silence can be cruelty too. She described the way a room breathes when a joke lands, the little gasp before the release. And then she guided them through blowing out the candles together. Inhale 3, exhale 4. She let them feel the temptation of the syncopation, and then smoothed it into a hum. You think we're laughing at you, she said. And she meant the Concord and every bully she'd ever met. But sometimes we laugh so we don't break. Sometimes we laugh because we do break and we want to show each other the pieces and say, look, we're still here. The set moved. It wasn't tear-jerking. Mira hated cheap sentiment. It was precise. A story about a grandmother in a war making jokes, so the soup would taste like something other than fear. A story about a referee tripping and a whole stadium choosing to groan instead of giggle because they had learned what their bodies could do. Another about a child's first laugh, the little wheeze of it, and how terrifying it was to teach her that this, too, was power. When the laugh rose in the room, the bracelets buzzed and the audience hummed. The hum caught, the misdirection resolved into a chord that you could feel in your ribs, on the screens. The auditors vibrated safely. The court did not collapse. Some of their petals fluttered, tight with strain, but they remained intact. Then Mira went for it, the joke she had saved for last, the one she had tested to within an inch of its life. So the imperial mandate walks into a bar, she said, and the bar says, no ultimatums after midnight. The mandate says, we are here to collect silence. The bar says, the only silence we pay is the silence of the breath before the laugh. When we all decide to let go together and no one is alone. The mandate says, that is not a currency. The bar says, it is the only one that ever mattered. The bracelets buzzed like bees. The hum rose. It was, Mira would later think, what a cathedral would sound like if it had been invented in a kitchen. Cheap materials, perfect heart. When it ended, there was that human anti-silence again, the fullness of a room that has shared something. On the screen, Liesel's petals were wide. The chord had not died. Their geometry had shifted. Their harmonics had developed a sliver of slack, a survivable joke, the court said. Each word like a balancer placed on a scale. We acknowledge the intention. We also acknowledge the deaths we have taken. We require restitution. Of course they did. This was still an empire. Mira stepped forward. We can't bring your dead back. We can honor them. We can learn you, so we won't kill you by accident again. You can learn us so you won't try to make us into a choir we cannot be. We require an end to disruptive broadcasting against our choirs. Jun took the mic. We can attempt enforcement, but we are not a singular throat. We are messy. Some of us will keep trying to hurt you. Some of us will hurt you without meaning. 2. That is the cost of dealing with us. The benefit is that we do not make good citizens of empires. We make excellent friends. Liesel's voice wove through the courts. We could partition. Permit your violence to deform only our margins. Allow a test zone of noise. Or, Mira said, before the moment passed, you could dismantle the lattice over our heads and meet us on ground, where neither of us can easily hurt the other. The court trembled. We cannot allow unregulated syncopation in imperial space. Then we meet in the spaces between. Liesel murmured, we build rooms like this, where we blow out candles and map each other's breath along. Impossible pause. Then, the silence protocol is lifted in the South Re Theater, the court said. Conditional, your hum guards remain in effect. During cross-contact, your streams will filter for lethal structures. We will cease grid coercions. We will accept the bridge set as formal ritual. It wasn't surrender. It was a treaty. It was less than Mira wanted and more than she dared to hope. There would be 1,000 battles after this over bandwidth and refugees and choke points and cultural theft. But it was a start, and it didn't end in cities freezing on command. The ships in orbit reconfigured. Not away, not yet, but looser. The lattice slackened. Air conditioners stopped marching. Somewhere, a wedding band allowed itself to swing. After the broadcast, capacitor exploded into noise, the kind of joyous, ugly noise you make when you've been holding your breath for too long. People laughed, hummed, then laughed again, clapped, shouted into the air as if the sky were finally listening. Mira sat on the stage with her legs dangling, exhausted, wired. Liesel's window remained open. Their petals had relaxed so far. They were nearly luminous. You warned me, Liesel said, that humor is a misdirection with empathy. I am unused to misdirections that leave structures intact. Sometimes the trick is just pointing at something you already have. Mira glanced up. The ships looked less like needles now, more like commas. Sometimes the punchline is that no one gets punched. Liesel's chorus made a sound that was not laughter, and yet sat near it on the map. We will need to teach our choirs to hum at your edges. We'll need to teach our kids when to hold a joke in the lungs and when to let it fly. Do you regret laughing? They asked. Very quietly. Mira thought of the bar the night the envoy arrived, of that first wave of breath that killed a being made of 100 throats. She thought of the way tyrants used seriousness like armor. She thought of the stadium, of the chill in Sao Paulo. She thought of the kids in basements, making pulse coders out of stolen parts. The grandparents telling gallows jokes that taste like courage. The courts tremor when the bridge landed. I regret the deaths, she said. I don't regret being the kind of creature that laughs at power. It keeps us alive. Perhaps it can keep us, too, Liesel said, if we learn the manner of it. The world did not transform overnight. The loose cannons kept pushing. The concord kept tightening and loosening in cycles like a nervous tide. There were tragedies. There were funerals where people hummed, then laughed, then hummed again. There were concerts that became diplomacy summits and policy meetings that ended with someone telling a bad joke that saved the room. Months later, the Hegemon's court requested Mira to appear not in person, not yet, but in the safe cast of The Bridge before a gathering of sub-choirs from worlds beyond count. She told them about a bar in Bucharest. She told them about a planet that couldn't stop laughing even when laughter was a knife. She did not make fun of them. She did not apologize for being human. Instead, she offered what she had: breath work, misdirection, the small miracles of choosing to let go together. At the end, a ripple moved across the assembled choirs. It was not a laugh. It was not a hum. It was new. When she returned to Capacitor, people asked her what it felt like to teach an empire to live through a joke. She said it felt like watching a child take their first breath and hoping, desperately, that the world would not crush it out of them. On clear nights, the ships looked like punctuation. We had been a question mark for so long. Now, the sky wrote. A different mark, still curved, still uncertain, but gentler. A comma, maybe, a pause, a breath, a place to rest before the next sentence. The title people put on that first day in the history nodes will never stop being true. First contact turned deadly because we laughed. But what came after mattered more. We learned how to laugh without killing, and they learned how not to kill our laughter. And the bar kept its rule. In chalk behind the register, where anyone could see it, no ultimatums after midnight. Underneath, someone had scrawled the addendum: hum before you heckle.